Hello, and welcome to another episode of Vessel and Voice podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, which is how to quantum leap, how to create quantum leaps in your life. And I know this is something that so many of you are interested in, but can't quite figure out how to do it. So today we're going to be hearing some channeled guidance from Monty to help us really understand what a quantum leap is and how we can start to make them happen in our own lives. Let's get into it. Before we get into today's podcast episode, Monty and I have a really important invitation for you. The Awakened Authenticity community is all about putting into practice the channeled wisdom that Monty shares us. And the months of November and December are honestly, since the beginning of when I started this membership at the beginning of this year, are the most powerful, I think, that we have done yet. You really are going to love November and December. So, Monty and I have decided that we would like to offer you a free trial for 1 month to join us in November. You will find in the show notes below a link to register for a free month in the Awakened Authenticity community. Now, in full transparency, we know that this is going to be very powerful for you. So, it does ask you for your credit card information, but as long as you cancel before the first billing date of 1 month after you join, there is no obligation to continue and you will not be billed. But November and December are all about preparing our energy for 2026. So if you're looking at the end of this year and saying, I really want to dedicate more time to my spiritual practices and to my spiritual expansion, I haven't had the right support, the right community to do that. And I know in 2026, I really want to take that quantum leap in my life. The Awakened Authenticity community is setting the foundations for that in November and December. It is helping us get clear on who we want to be and who we need to become to get to our quantum leaps. So as you listen to today's episode, if your interest starts to get a little, I want to put this into practice, please visit the link in the show notes below. We would love to have you there. The membership is normally $45 a month, and it also includes 2 events in the mastery level. This Thursday, we will be hosting the meditation that kicks all of this work off. On this Thursday, November 6th at 1 p.m., we will be doing one of the 2 events that are included at the mastery level. We do a group meditation every first Thursday of the month to set the energetic tone, to help us to begin to integrate, and that acts as a guide for us that we can repeat the meditation throughout the month as we integrate the lessons. Then on the third Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. Central, we also have a group channeling where you can submit questions about what you're struggling with to actually implement the work that we're doing, or questions that come up, as well as other things that are coming up in your spiritual work. And Monty answers those questions in a group channeling experience. I am really, really excited about what November and December have to bring. I am excited as well to implement it right alongside you, because I do the work in the membership right alongside the members and love doing this. It has honestly made a really big impact in my life over this past year of helping me take the steps to become the version of myself that I've wanted to be. And I can also see it in the members that have been doing this work with me throughout this time of how much they have transformed as well. So we hope that you take us up on this offer, and if so, we will see you in there. Before we talk about quantum leaps and hear from Monty about the guidance that he has to share, I want to really set the scene and set the tone of this podcast episode a little bit more, because as someone that had a very deep science education, sometimes I hear when people talk about quantum leaps, I'm like, oh, but that's not really how the science works. And I think it's important for us to really understand a little bit about the science vocabulary and how the spiritual vocabulary is a little bit different, especially if you're someone who thinks, well, quantum leaps aren't possible because science says blah, 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 blah. I also agree with you on that. But it's that we're taking the language from science, we're altering it a little bit to include the realm of spirituality and consciousness. Science describes what I would call the architecture of the universe, of how things are organized and the way things kind of work to a certain extent of what we can measure. And obviously, we can't measure everything, and science is constantly making new discoveries. Whereas spirituality really describes the interface with the universe that we have. So science says this is the structure, these are the rules that we have to play with. And then spirituality says, okay, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to engage with this in this way. So sometimes it can be that the words that we hear can be more of a metaphor, of a stand in for a larger idea of expanding on what science tells us. A quantum leap in science is really at an atomic scale. It's when you have electrons within an atom and that electron jumps in energy levels from one level to the next, that there are different levels of energy where the atoms have their electrons kind of hanging out in their energy. It's a little bit more complex than you probably were taught in science class, where you had the nucleus at the middle and then the different levels of atoms that they expand out layer by layer. The diagrams of atomic structure are much more complicated when you really get into science and get into the deepness of physics, but it is still really that electron moving from one level to another. And that movement energetically, as it's raising that energy up, is what is called a quantum leap in science. And we're applying that same thing when we talk about it from a consciousness shifting. We're shifting our consciousness from one level of where we're at to the next. And with that often comes a consciousness shift of that we are operating in a higher vibration. Now, when it comes to the idea of multiple realities, this is a very controversial topic within physics. Some people believe in the multiple realities and the existence of the multiverse. Other physicists don't. So understand that there is still a lot of debate, even in the science world, about the idea of multiple realities, which Monty is going to start talking about in the channeled message for today. But in consciousness, we do believe that there are parallels of different realities that are existing at the same time. And Monty talked about this in the previous episode where we talked about timelines and reincarnation, of that although we have our linearity of in human creation, we say this event happened, then this event happened, and that's how we go through time. In the quantum reality, time is all at the same time. There is no time really, of that the events are all occurring. And because humanity measures it by event and then event and then event, when all the events are occurring at the same time, then all of time is happening at once. And this thus creates the idea of the multiverse, and that the events can operate in different ways. So as a single event happens, the outcomes can be different. And that causes the split in realities within consciousness. And this comes to the definition of time. While in physics, it is something that is understood that it may be nonlinear, it is something that can be measured, and it's measured through events that we've all decided. For example, the length of a second is a specific time. And so we can measure things based off of that basic measurement. Versus in consciousness and in spirituality, when we get into the idea that everything is happening at once, all events are occurring, then time does not exist. It is an illusory construct. And then we get into the observation effect, the observer effect in physics. So there's this concept that has been measured by science that when we go to measure a particle and we expect it to be a certain way, when we measure it, it is that way. Then if we expect it to be a different way, we go to measure it, it is that way. Even though it's at the same moment, both of those two different states of energy exist at the same time. And whatever we go to measure and what we focus on of the observer effect determines what state it's in. This is something that's really at the quantum physics level that they're experimenting with in things like particle accelerators. And how we translate that into spirituality is by saying that our focus, just like the observer effect of our consciousness, is what dictates what is real. So in the way that science says the particle is one thing when we measure it, when we focus our consciousness on one reality, that makes it our reality that we are experiencing. So the difference between science and spirituality, however, is that science is really looking at very microscopic levels, very, very small things that can't be seen by the human eye, that we have only recently had the technology to be able to measure. versus spirituality is looking at it on a macrocosmic level of saying, when you focus your consciousness this way, your entire reality and experience of life can change. Now, when we go back to spirituality and we begin to apply the things that we know from spirituality that we believe in, there is the effect that everything is contained within and is mirrored throughout the whole. So the idea is, if this holds true at the smallest elements of life, in the smallest particles possible, then therefore it also applies at the macro level. Science disagrees with this in many ways, but from a spirituality perspective, that is the belief that we hold. I hope that this has helped explain a little bit about the intersection between science and the spiritual version of quantum leaps and how they kind of mirror each other, but understanding that we are using the terminology and the basis of understanding quite differently. So let's get into what Monty has to share about how we can create quantum leaps, and we'll discuss it at the end because I do feel like this one is a bit of a hard concept to really sink your teeth into. So I'll see you after we hear from Monty. Let us begin by first defining what it means to quantum leap, because there is many different versions and a lot of misunderstanding of what we mean when we say quantum leap. A quantum leap is this first concept that you are in this position in time and that there exists a quantum reality where everything else is happening all at once around you. At the same moment, there is the reality of everything that you have ever wanted that exists, that you are in, that there is a reality where everything that you have ever wanted has come to fruition, is in manifest reality in your life, and that you are leaping your focused consciousness from this time and place to that time and place. However, there are a certain amount of restrictions within physical reality that we wish to point out. That as your soul incarnated into this time and place, it came with a certain understanding that it was agreeing to be focused in its consciousness on this particular physical manifestation, on this particular timeline. Now, you can change timelines through your choices, through your actions, through your state of being. It is not that you are restricted necessarily in one timeline, but that you can proceed from timeline, event to event to event, because in human reality, time is measured in events. Time is measured in this event happened, then this event happened, then this event happened. And humans use that in counting moments of time. For example, this is 1 second. This is the event of a second. That is how time is constructed within human consciousness. There is also the idea of time as events that occur within your reality. So, for example, you are doing something else and then you started this episode and that was an event. That thing you were doing happened before you started this time of listening to this episode. After you have completed listening to this episode, then there will be other events that occur. That is also your measurement of time. In quantum reality, everything is occurring at the same time. All events are happening within the same moment, we will say, within the same second. Now, it is a bit complex because there then is no idea of time. There is no linearity. And so when we access into the quantum reality, events no longer dictate timelines. Timelines become irrelevant. Everything is happening in this moment in time all at once, and now, and now. So when you allow your consciousness to step into other events that have been created You are not shifting timelines. You are merely shifting from one event to another. So it is important to understand that what you are truly accessing when you are allowing yourself to come into quantum reality is events. And then you are trying at that moment to embed these events into a linear timeline of saying, everything has happened before. I am here in this moment. I am accessing my quantum reality and bringing those events into the moments of the near future. That is what you are trying to do when you are creating a quantum leap. Now, it is important to understand that this is possible for you to create events in the future by accessing quantum reality, of saying that time is independent of events. But what is important when time is no longer relevant is energy. Energy creates the different realities without the linearity of events. Energy, in the pure essence of the event, the energy of the occurrence, is how it is created. It is not that these things lined up along this time for an event to occur. For example, if we say that you want to create a specific event in your life, you can imagine all of the things that had to occur for that event to happen, both in your life as well as the lives of many other individuals, down to the very idea of what it is that you want to create, even existing at all. What is important to understand is that when timelines are no longer of importance, none of the events that needed to happen matter. The event can occur without all of those other events in energy. And understanding the energy that needs to occur, that needs to be created in a certain format, in certain forms, for it to be created. When you are no longer emphasizing a timeline of events that need to occur in a specific order to create a specific result, it is purely the essence of the energy of the creation that matters, because no events occurred to create it. We hope that this explanation does resonate a bit and may need to be re-listened to a second time for full comprehension. Now, in understanding that what creates events is pure energy, when you are tapping into quantum reality, it is important that you are looking at the energy of the event, not the timeline that needs to be created, not the step-by-step idea of these are the actions I need to take, but rather, this is the energy I need to create in this moment, and identifying what that energy is with full comprehension. Then understanding that to create energy is a process that starts from within. So then returning to your full consciousness in this moment in time, understanding that you are taking the energy from quantum reality and allowing it to be embodied in this moment in time where you want to create the leap of saying, I want to change my physical reality. I want to have this event occur, this reality to be created, and say, I am going to embody that energy fully and completely to create that event. Now, what is key to understand here is that you cannot create something external without first starting internally. So when you are looking at your quantum reality of the reality event you want to create, regardless of the timeline, but the event you want to create, that moment in time that you are centering on, It is important to center on your energy, not the energy of the thing that you want, not the energy of what it does in your life, but the energy of who you are being. Then, and only then, when you can be that energy fully and completely, can you create that event, to create that physical manifestation that you so desire. Because that event where you had what you wanted, where the quantum leap had occurred, required that you had the capability of taking in energies from the external world, transmuting them, transforming them through your energetic filter of your state of being, and then re-externalizing those energies. It begins first with you changing your state of being to be capable of that transmutation, of that transformation of those external energies. Then, at that point, this is where it comes into a point of surrender, because the quantum leap is not just created by your internal state. It is also created by that external energy, that opportunity showing up for you to transmute and transform it. So you must be in that state of being, ready for any potential opportunity of that external energy that comes your way, that then when that energy is presented, that gives you the ability to transmute and transform it in that moment. And it is a process of surrender then, of understanding that that is inevitable, that the external energy will arrive, but that you are always ready for that opportunity, that you are always in that moment of readiness, of that state of capable beingness. So that way, when the external energy arrives, that quantum leap occurs. It is two parts. It is that you are in that state of being, waiting for the opportunity, and that the opportunity presents itself. Now, this is the important part. You would say, oh, but then we are back to the linear timeline of the event of that energy must come to me. I must be in a state of preparedness, and then it is just a point of luck, is it not? And we would say yes, to a certain extent. But because that quantum reality has one of the two aspects that are required, you are attracting at a much faster rate that potentiality of luck of what you need. And that is why people who embody the energy of their future selves are so lucky. Things seem to fall into place quite easily for them. They know it is inevitable because they have seen that future quantum reality. It is very real. And they have entered into that state of preparedness, of readiness of their state of being and being fully capable, which then allows the event to happen at a much faster rate than if you are not ready. Because if you are not ready, one of the 2 points is not there and it cannot happen. That the external reality could come, but you are not prepared for the event. And so the quantum leap, the event, the inevitable thing that needs to happen for you to get what you want is not possible. This is why in your control, what you can do is get into that state of readiness, to trust that it will happen, that the energy will arrive, that will allow for the transmutation, for the transformation, to create that quantum event for you to leap into that reality. We hope that this clarifies how to create a quantum leap and what is required on your part. We send you great love. That is all. There is so much to unpack in what Monty shared in today's episode, and I know it's one I will probably go back and listen to a few times myself. And I have had the opportunity to listen to it a few times already, and I'm still really processing and understanding it. So if this one confuses you, that's okay. It's always here for you to listen to again and refer back to really deepen your understanding of this concept. So again, when we're talking about quantum leap from a spiritual level, it is different than the science definition that we talked about at the beginning. But let's break it down about what Monty shared a little bit more so that way we can understand it. So, the first thing to understand is that human reality sees events happening one after the other in a cause and effect relationship. A happened, so therefore B can happen. B happened, so C can happen, and so on as you keep going. Of that, the reason why you are here in your life in this moment is based off of the choices that you already made. And while that is true in terms of this moment in time is created based off of the choices of the past, quantum reality also looks at it from the perspective of all the events that could possibly have ever happened or ever will happen are happening right now. All events exist simultaneously. In our understanding of time as humans, we really focus on that cause and effect of A caused B to happen, which caused C to happen. But when we view it from the spiritual level, it is that energetic resonance is what causes events to occur, not the cause and effect of the event previous to it. And that is really the key to understanding how to create this quantum leap is shifting your understanding of A caused B, which caused C, instead into the energy caused A. So when we view it from a very human lens of linear time, we say, well, for me to get to D, I have to go through A, B, C to be able to get to D. And all these things have to line up in that specific order. Otherwise, D can never happen. But what quantum leaping is saying the only requirement for D to happen is the energy that creates D. Monty then breaks it down of what are the requirements for an event to occur. There's two parts. First is that you are being the state of energy that you're in for D to happen. So starting inward, working on your energy to get to the energetic state that you are in when the event that you're trying to manifest occurs. That energetic state that you're in is something you can create regardless of external reality. The second part is that the other energies that you are coordinating with to create the event have to come and flow into your energetic reality. Again, energetic reality is not always physical reality. Those things are interrelated, but you can very easily create energy in your system that does not exist in physical form yet. You can be in that energetic state and be prepared so that way when the energy shows up, you're ready to act on it. You're ready to make the manifestation happen in that way. But if you're not in that energetic state and the energy shows up, you're not ready, you don't take the actions necessary, and the manifestation does not come to fruition. The quantum leap doesn't occur. So that's the key, is working on your internal state of your energy and it becoming what we often say is a match for the event. But it's not the event that Monty really wants us to pay attention to. It's who we are being when the event occurs, not the event itself. That is the difference in how Monty is talking about it versus some other manifestation practices maybe that you've heard. And because we live in this field of simultaneous possibilities, you can go from A to D and skip B to C entirely. It no longer requires that you are going through that cause and effect order of linearity that we've always said, well, I have to show up in these ways to create that event. And it very well may be that for you, you need to go through some of those other events that predate D of doing A, B, and then C. So that way you can get into that energetic state of being. But you can leap over B and C to get to D from A very easily by changing your energetic state. Now, there then came the portion where Monty said, yes, but then you have to wait for the energy to come. But the energy comes faster when you're in that state of being because you are accessing that potential reality by focusing on it. By moving your conscious focus to that event, you are creating that event at the same time through the observer effect. I hope that this helps understand a little bit about quantum leaps, how you can start applying it in your life, and how you can get from where you're at to where you want to be much more quickly. This is a confusing topic, though, I will admit. So if you have any questions about this topic or would like to know more, please feel free to send us a text and we would be happy to answer any of those questions. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in the next one.